Hey Reddit, I'm reaching out because I'm feeling completely lost right now, and I really need to share what's going on in my life. My name is Elizabeth, and I've been married to my husband, William, for 7 years. On the surface, everything looks fine. We have a nice house, steady jobs, and a comfortable lifestyle. But lately, I've felt increasingly isolated in our marriage, and I don't know how to navigate this situation anymore. For the past year, our relationship has felt strained. We rarely spend quality time together, and when we do, it often turns into arguments about trivial matters. William has been swamped with work, and while I understand that we all have responsibilities, I can't help but feel neglected. I find myself longing for the connection we once shared, but it feels like a distant memory now. During this time of loneliness, I found myself growing closer to a colleague, Jake. We worked on a project together, and I began to confide in him about my feelings of isolation. At first, it was just casual conversations, sharing jokes, discussing work, and offering support. But slowly, those conversations evolved into something deeper. I started looking forward to our interactions, and I found comfort in Jake's understanding nature. It was like I had found a safe space to express my feelings without judgment. I know it sounds cliché, but I never intended for it to become more than friendship. Yet, the emotional connection between us deepened, and I began to confide in him about my frustrations with my marriage. I felt a sense of relief when I talked to Jake, something I had been missing for so long with William. But everything changed one fateful evening when William came home early and caught me texting Jake about a difficult day at work. I could see the look of shock on his face, and I instantly knew that my world was about to unravel. The moment of betrayal hung in the air like a dark cloud, and I felt my heart race as the reality of what I had done began to sink in. When William walked through the door that evening, I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I had just exchanged a message with Jake, sharing a lighthearted joke about a work project we were collaborating on. It was innocent in nature, but I knew it could easily be misconstrued. The look on William's face said it all, confusion mixed with hurt. "Hey, Elizabeth, who are you texting?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady, but I could hear the underlying tension. "It's just Jake from work," I replied, attempting to sound casual. "We were talking about that project we're working on." His eyes narrowed, and I could feel the atmosphere in the room shift. "Right. You seem pretty cozy with him," he said, crossing his arms over his chest. I felt a knot form in my stomach. "It's nothing like that. He's just a friend, someone I can talk to." "Is that so?" William's voice was low, filled with skepticism. "Because it doesn't feel like just a friend. It feels like there's something more going on." The accusation hung in the air like a heavy weight, and I could feel my heart racing. "William, please. You know I would never betray you," I said, desperation creeping into my voice. "Then why do I feel like I'm losing you?" he challenged, taking a step closer. "You've been distant for months. Is it really just about work, or is there something more?" I wanted to explain everything, to share my feelings of isolation, the emotional connection I had developed with Jake, and the comfort I found in those conversations. But how could I do that without sounding like I was justifying my actions? Instead, I felt the tears welling up in my eyes. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt so alone lately. "I thought you were too busy to notice." William's expression softened for a moment, but the hurt was still there. "I can't believe you turned to someone else instead of talking to me about it. I didn't mean for it to happen," I pleaded. "I just wanted someone to listen." The tension in the room was thick as we stood there, both of us grappling with emotions that felt too heavy to bear. I could see the pain in William's eyes, and it broke my heart to know that I had contributed to that hurt. "Can we just talk about this?" I asked softly, trying to find a way to bridge the gap that had formed between us. "I never intended to hurt you." "Talk?" he echoed, his voice strained. "What is there to talk about? You've been confiding in another man while I've been here, feeling like I'm losing my wife." I felt a rush of guilt wash over me. "I know, and I'm so sorry for that. I should have reached out to you instead of Jake. I didn't mean for it to become what it is." William ran a hand through his hair, visibly frustrated. "You've been shutting me out for so long. I didn't even realize how isolated you felt until now." "I thought you were too busy to care," I admitted, my voice trembling. I didn't know how to reach you anymore. You were always preoccupied with work, and I felt like I was just a background character in your life." He looked taken aback, and I could see the hurt in his eyes. "I never meant to make you feel that way. I thought we were in this together." "I thought so too," I said, feeling the tears streaming down my cheeks. "But somewhere along the way, we lost our connection. I didn't know how to bring it back." William took a deep breath, visibly struggling to process everything. "So what now? What do we do with this?" "I want to fix this," I said earnestly, "but I know it's going to take time. I don't want to lose you." "I don't want to lose you either," he replied, his voice softer now. "But we need to be honest with each other. I need to know the truth about your feelings for Jake." "I promise it's not romantic," I assured him. "I let myself get too close because I felt lonely, and I thought you were too far away." William and I sat in silence for a moment, both grappling with the weight of the conversation. I felt exposed, as if my vulnerabilities were laid bare before him. It was terrifying to confront the truth of my actions and the repercussions they could have on our marriage. "Do you love him?" William asked suddenly, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and pain. "No," I exclaimed, my heart racing. "I care about him as a friend, but it's not like that. I promise." His eyes searched mine for any hint of deception. "Then how do I know you're being honest with me?" I felt my stomach twist at his words. "I'm here, aren't I? I'm the one who wants to fix things. If I wanted something with Jake, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now." William looked down, clearly wrestling with his emotions. "I don't know how to trust you right now, Elizabeth. It feels like I've lost a part of you." "I'm still here," I said softly, "but I realize I have to earn back your trust. I need to be transparent about my feelings moving forward." He nodded slowly, his expression softening. "That would help, but it's not just about trust. We need to work on our communication. I want to know what you're feeling, even if it's hard." "I can do that," I replied, feeling a sense of relief. "I want to be open with you. I've just been so afraid of pushing you away. And I've been so consumed with work that I didn't notice how isolated you felt," he admitted. "We both need to change." I could see the determination in his eyes, and for the first time in a while, I felt a glimmer of hope. "Maybe this can be a turning point for us," I suggested. "We can start fresh and really work on our relationship." "I'd like that," he said, a small smile forming on his lips. "But it won't happen overnight. We have to be patient with each other." "I understand," I replied, feeling the weight of the situation beginning to lift. "We'll take it one step at a time." As the days turned into weeks, Mark and I committed to rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't easy, but we both recognized the importance of being intentional about our communication. I was determined to be open with him about my feelings and to listen to his concerns as well. We began scheduling regular, check-in conversations where we would discuss how we were feeling, any concerns we had, and what we could do to support each other. I found it liberating to be honest about my emotions, and I was pleasantly surprised by how receptive Mark was during these discussions. One evening, as we sat down for our weekly check-in, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I've been thinking a lot about our relationship," I started, my voice steady. "I really want to know how you're feeling about everything." Mark nodded, taking a deep breath. "I've been feeling a lot of things, anger, sadness, but also hope. I want us to work, but I'm still scared." "Scared of what?" I asked gently. "Scared of being hurt again," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "I thought we had a strong foundation, and then everything fell apart." "I know," I said, feeling the weight of his words. "I felt isolated, but I realize now that I should have reached out to you instead of seeking comfort elsewhere." "Do you still feel isolated?" he asked, his tone probing. "A little," I admitted, "but I think I'm starting to find my voice again. I'm working on myself, and I hope that it helps our marriage." "I want you to be happy, Elizabeth," he said earnestly. "I want to be the husband you deserve, but it's going to take time for me to fully trust you again." "I understand," I replied, my heart aching with the reality of our situation, "but I'm committed to earning back that trust. I'll do whatever it takes." Mark reached for my hand, and I felt a sense of warmth spread through me. "I believe in us," he said softly. "We can get through this together." As the weeks continued, I focused on both my personal growth and our relationship. I began to rediscover my passions and hobbies that I had set aside during our marriage. I joined a local painting class, something I had always wanted to try, and it became an incredible outlet for my emotions. Each brushstroke on the canvas allowed me to release the pent-up feelings of sadness and frustration I had been carrying for so long. Mark noticed the changes in me. One evening, as I was setting up my supplies for a painting session at home, he approached me with a curious expression. "What are you working on?" he asked, glancing at the canvas. "It's just a practice piece," I replied, feeling a rush of excitement. "I've been trying to explore my creativity again." "I love that," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "It's nice to see you finding joy in something again. Can I watch?" I nodded, feeling grateful for his support. As I painted, I could sense his admiration, and it felt good to share this part of myself with him. It was a small step toward rebuilding our connection, and I cherished these moments of intimacy. One evening after dinner, we decided to take a walk together around the neighborhood. The cool breeze felt refreshing, and I could see that the stars were beginning to twinkle in the sky. "I love this time of year," I said, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "Me too," Mark replied, glancing at me with a soft smile. "I've been thinking about how far we've come since our conversations began." "Yeah, it feels different now," I said, my heart swelling with hope. "I feel like we're finally starting to reconnect." "I want to continue moving forward," he said earnestly, "but I need to know that you're fully committed to us. I can't go through another betrayal." "I am committed, Mark," I assured him, my voice steady. "I want this marriage to work, and I'm doing the work to make it happen." His expression softened, and I could see the appreciation in his eyes. "That means a lot to me, Elizabeth. I'm willing to put in the effort too." As the weeks turned into months, I felt a sense of healing slowly but surely taking place in our marriage. Mark and I continued our counseling sessions and made a conscious effort to communicate openly about our feelings. The emotional connection we were rebuilding felt fragile yet hopeful, and I was determined to nurture it. One evening, as we were settling in for a quiet night at home, Mark suggested we try something new together. "How about a date night?" he proposed, a playful glint in his eyes. "We can revisit some of our favorite spots and make new memories." I felt a flutter of excitement at the idea. "That sounds amazing. We haven't done that in ages." "Let's plan it for this weekend," he said, already pulling out his phone to check our schedules. "We can go to that Italian restaurant we love, and then maybe catch a movie afterward?" I nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I can't wait." As the weekend approached, I felt a renewed sense of anticipation. It had been a long time since we'd spent quality time together, and the thought of reconnecting filled me with hope. I took time to choose an outfit that made me feel beautiful, wanting to show Mark that I was fully present in this moment. When the night finally arrived, we went to the restaurant and reminisced about our favorite dishes and shared stories from our early days together. Mark held my hand across the table, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the warmth of his love enveloping me. After dinner, we decided to take a stroll through the nearby park. The air was cool, and the stars twinkled above us. "I'm really glad we did this," I said, looking up at the night sky. "It feels like we're rediscovering each other." "I feel the same way," Mark replied, his voice soft. "I want to keep working on our relationship, Elizabeth. You mean the world to me." I felt a surge of warmth at his words, and I squeezed his hand gently. "I'm here for it, Mark. I really want this to work." As we walked, I reflected on how far we had come. There would still be challenges ahead, but in this moment, I felt hopeful for our future. The weeks following our date night brought about a renewed sense of connection between Mark and me. We continued to prioritize our time together, making an effort to go on regular date nights and communicate openly about our feelings. I was amazed at how much difference it made in our relationship. However, despite the positive changes, I still felt the need to address some lingering insecurities. During one of our counseling sessions, I brought it up. "I want to talk about how I still feel uneasy sometimes," I said, my voice steady. "There are moments when I doubt whether we can truly move past the betrayal." Mark nodded, his expression serious. "I appreciate your honesty. It's important for us to discuss these feelings." It's just that I'm still trying to reconcile the emotional distance we had for so long, I admitted. Even though we're working on things now, I worry that the past will haunt us. I understand, he said, leaning forward. I want to assure you that I'm committed to earning back your trust. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm all in. Actions speak louder than words, I reminded him. It's not enough to say you're committed. I need to see it. I get that, he replied, determination shining in his eyes. I'll be transparent with you about everything. No more secrets. As we delved deeper into the conversation, I felt a sense of relief. We were making progress, but I also knew that healing was a gradual process. It was essential for me to acknowledge my feelings, and I appreciated that Mark was willing to listen. Can we set specific goals for ourselves? I suggested. I think it would help us both stay accountable. That's a great idea, Mark agreed, a smile forming on his lips. Let's work on creating a roadmap for our journey together. Feeling empowered, I grabbed a notebook and started jotting down ideas. We can focus on communication, quality time, and being open about our feelings, I said, feeling excited about the prospect of working together toward a common goal. Over the next few weeks, we continued to build on the goals we had set for ourselves. Mark and I committed to having weekly check-ins to discuss our feelings and experiences, and we made a conscious effort to prioritize quality time together. Each moment spent nurturing our relationship felt like a small victory. One weekend, we decided to take a mini road trip to a nearby town. The drive felt liberating, and as we explored new places, I felt the connection between us deepening. We laughed, reminisced about our early days together, and shared stories that brought us closer. While exploring a quaint little bookstore, I stumbled upon a journal with a beautiful cover. I should get this, I said, holding it up. I want to keep track of our journey together. Mark smiled, clearly pleased. That sounds like a great idea. It could be a way for us to reflect on our progress. I purchased the journal, excited to document our experiences. That evening, as we sat by the campfire, I began writing about our day. I poured my heart into the pages, capturing the memories we were creating together. But as I wrote, I felt a flicker of doubt creeping in. What if things didn't stay this way? What if the wounds of betrayal resurfaced? I pushed those thoughts aside, reminding myself that healing was a journey, and I was determined to focus on the positive changes we were making. As I closed the journal that night, I looked over at Mark, who was gazing into the flames. I'm really happy we're doing this, I said, my voice filled with sincerity. Me too, Elizabeth, he replied, turning to face me. I've missed this connection. It feels good to be present with each other again. In that moment, I felt a surge of hope. Perhaps we were on the right path after all. As the stars twinkled above us, I allowed myself to envision a future where we could overcome the past and rebuild our love. As the weeks continued to unfold, Mark and I both felt the impact of our efforts. The weekly check-ins became a safe space for us to express our emotions and address any concerns. I began to feel more secure in our relationship, but there were still moments when insecurities crept back in. One evening, during our check-in, I shared my feelings with Mark. I've been feeling more positive lately, but there are times when I still worry about the future, I confessed. Those feelings are valid, Mark said, nodding in understanding. It's natural to have doubts after everything we've been through, but I'm here for you, and I want to support you as you navigate those feelings. Thank you for saying that, I replied, feeling grateful for his support. I think it's important for me to acknowledge that healing takes time. Absolutely. We're both learning and growing together, he said softly, and I want to reassure you that I'm committed to this. As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of comfort in our connection. Mark's words reassured me, and I realized that while there would always be challenges ahead, we were on a journey together. That weekend, we decided to visit the same restaurant where we had our first date. It felt nostalgic, and as we sat down, I could feel the excitement bubbling within me. I can't believe it's been so long since we've been here, I said, glancing around. I remember that night vividly, Mark replied with a smile. We were both so nervous, but it felt like we clicked instantly. Yeah, I felt a spark that night, I said, recalling the warmth of his presence. As we enjoyed our meal, I felt a wave of contentment wash over me. The connection between us felt stronger than ever, and I realized that our efforts were paying off. After dinner, we decided to take a stroll through the nearby park. The air was cool and crisp, and the stars shone brightly above us. "I'm really glad we did this," I said, feeling grateful for the moment. "Me too," Mark replied, his eyes sparkling in the moonlight. "This is what I've missed, the simple moments spent together." In that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope for our future. We were on the right path, and as long as we continued to communicate openly and support each other, I believed we could overcome the challenges that lay ahead. As Mark and I continued to strengthen our bond, I felt increasingly hopeful about our relationship. We established new routines that prioritize quality time, and I found myself looking forward to our moments together. However, I knew that there were still underlying issues that we needed to address. During one of our counseling sessions, I decided to bring up my lingering insecurities. "I've been feeling better overall, but I still struggle with feelings of unworthiness," I admitted. "Sometimes, I can't shake the fear that I'm not enough for you." Mark looked concerned. "You are more than enough, Elizabeth. I want you to know that I chose you, and I love you for who you are." "But how can I believe that when I felt so alone for so long?" I challenged, feeling vulnerable. "We're working through this together," he said, his voice steady. "You need to believe in yourself just as much as I believe in you. We can't allow the past to dictate our present." His words resonated with me, and I realized that I had been holding on to my fears instead of embracing the love and support he was offering. "You're right," I said, taking a deep breath. "I need to work on my self-worth." "I'll be here to support you every step of the way," he promised, taking my hand in his. As the session continued, we discussed strategies for building my confidence and fostering open communication. I left feeling a renewed sense of purpose, determined to tackle my insecurities head-on. In the days that followed, I began practicing self-care and focusing on positive affirmations. I made a list of qualities I loved about myself and reminded myself that I was deserving of love and happiness. Mark noticed the changes, and he was supportive of my journey. "I'm proud of you for taking these steps," he said one evening as we relaxed on the couch. "You're doing the hard work, and it's inspiring." "Thank you," I replied, feeling encouraged. "I couldn't do this without your support." As we sat together, I felt a growing sense of connection. The love we were rebuilding felt stronger than ever, and I was starting to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. With each passing week, I felt myself growing stronger and more confident. Mark and I continued to attend counseling sessions, where we explored the complexities of our relationship and the importance of honest communication. It felt like we were both committed to creating a healthier partnership, and I appreciated the progress we were making together. One evening, as we settled in for a cozy night at home, Mark suggested we play a game of trivia. "Let's make it interesting," he said with a mischievous grin. "How about a little competition?" "Bring it on," I replied, feeling the familiar spark of playfulness between us. As we played, I found myself laughing and enjoying the moment. It felt so good to reconnect and experience joy together again. The laughter flowed freely, and the tension that had once clouded our relationship seemed to dissipate. However, as the night went on, the conversation shifted toward deeper topics. "What are some of the things you've learned about yourself during this process?" Mark asked, looking genuinely curious. I paused for a moment, reflecting on the question. "I've learned that I need to prioritize my own happiness," I said thoughtfully. "For too long, I put your needs above my own, and I lost sight of who I am." Mark nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I think that's an important realization. We both need to be whole individuals to make our relationship work." "I want to be a better partner for you," I continued, "and I want to work on my communication skills. I don't want to bottle up my feelings anymore." "I appreciate that, Elizabeth," he replied earnestly. "It's important for us to be honest with each other about our needs and desires." As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of warmth and connection. The love we were nurturing felt real and authentic, and I could see the progress we were making together. That night, as we snuggled up on the couch, I felt grateful for the journey we had undertaken. It hadn't been easy, but every step brought us closer to understanding each other and rebuilding our marriage. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself reflecting on how much Mark and I had grown together. The foundation of our relationship was slowly being rebuilt, and I could feel the love between us growing stronger. We had established a routine of open communication, and I felt more comfortable expressing my feelings without fear of judgment. One evening, as we prepared dinner together, I could feel the warmth of our connection filling the kitchen. We danced around each other, sharing laughter and playful banter as we cooked. It felt like we were rediscovering the joy we had lost for so long. "Hey, do you remember our first cooking date?" Mark asked, a nostalgic smile on his face. "How could I forget?" I replied, laughing. "You burned the pasta." "I was nervous," he protested, mock-offended. "I just wanted to impress you." "I think you did, despite the cooking disaster," I said, smiling at the memory. As we enjoyed our dinner, I felt a sense of gratitude for the journey we had taken together. We had faced the darkness of betrayal and emerged stronger, more connected. But even amidst the happiness, I knew that there were still underlying issues to address. I wanted to ensure that we continued to foster our emotional connection and maintain our open communication. "Mark, can we talk about something?" I asked, feeling a little apprehensive. "Of course. What's on your mind?" he replied, his expression attentive. "I want us to keep growing together," I began. "I know we've made progress, but I also think we need to set goals for our relationship moving forward." "Absolutely," he agreed, his eyes brightening. "What do you have in mind?" "I think it would be beneficial for us to establish regular date nights, just like we used to," I suggested. "And maybe we could also schedule monthly check-ins to discuss our feelings and any concerns." "I love those ideas," he said enthusiastically. "Let's make it happen. We can't let life get in the way of our connection again." With each conversation, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We were taking the necessary steps to build a healthy relationship, and I believed we could navigate any challenges that came our way together. As our relationship continued to flourish, I felt a newfound sense of confidence and security. Mark and I implemented our goals for regular date nights and monthly check-ins, and it made a significant difference in our connection. Each date became a cherished opportunity to nurture our bond, and I found joy in the little moments we shared. One Saturday evening, Mark surprised me with a picnic in the park. He laid out a blanket under the stars and brought my favorite foods, fresh fruit, cheese, and a bottle of wine. As we sat together, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the effort he had put into creating such a special experience. "This is perfect," I said, smiling at him. "I can't remember the last time we did something like this." "I wanted to remind you of the fun we can have together," he replied, his eyes twinkling in the moonlight. "We need to keep making these memories." As we enjoyed our meal, we shared stories and laughter, and for a moment, it felt like the weight of the past had lifted. I looked at Mark and realized how much I appreciated his efforts. "Mark, thank you for being so dedicated to us," I said, my voice sincere. "It means the world to me." "I'm committed to this," he said, leaning closer. "I want us to be happy and healthy together. I know we still have work to do, but I believe in us." As the night went on, I felt a sense of peace settle within me. We had come so far, and while there would always be challenges, I was beginning to believe in the strength of our love. Later that night, as we walked back to the car, I felt a surge of happiness. I realized that I had started to let go of the past. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but I was learning to focus on the present and the future we were building together. As the months continued to unfold, Mark and I found ourselves in a much better place than we had been before. We were consistently making time for each other, openly communicating our feelings, and actively nurturing our emotional connection. Each day felt like a new opportunity to strengthen our bond. One evening, we sat together in the living room, wrapped up in a cozy blanket while watching our favorite movie. I felt contentment wash over me as I snuggled closer to Mark. It was a simple moment, but it was these moments that reminded me of the love we had always shared. "Elizabeth," Mark said, pausing the movie, "I want to talk about something." My heart raced a bit as I looked up at him, concerned. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about our journey," he began, his expression serious yet gentle. "We've come a long way, and I want you to know how proud I am of us." "Me too," I replied, feeling a wave of emotion. "It hasn't been easy, but I believe we've grown stronger." I want to take the next step in our relationship, he said, his voice steady. I've been thinking about how much I love you and how I want to build a future together. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I want to ask you if you'd be open to starting a family, he said, his eyes searching mine for a reaction. I know we've been through a lot, but I believe we're in a much better place now. Tears filled my eyes as I processed his words. Starting a family had always been a dream of mine, but I had been hesitant after everything we had gone through. I don't know what to say, I stammered, feeling overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment. You don't have to answer right away, Mark said quickly. I just want you to know where I stand. I love you, and I can see a future with you. In that moment, I realized that the journey we had taken had brought us to this pivotal point. I had found my voice, and I was beginning to envision a beautiful future together, one filled with love, trust, and the promise of new beginnings. Let's talk about it more, I said, feeling a mix of hope and excitement. I want to explore this possibility with you. As we resumed our movie, I felt a renewed sense of optimism for the future. We had faced the complexities of our relationship head-on, and together, we were ready to embrace whatever lay ahead.